Now I'm going to talk to you guys about 3 different topics, and I'll be as short as possible. One, the Rock Diner's Guide that Chef Tate just held up. Nikki, you got one? Okay. Well, the Rock Diner's Guide, the Behind the Kitchen Door book that's written by our co-founder, Saru Jayaraman, and the WelcomeTable.net, that website right there. So, without further ado, I'll go into the Diner's Guide. So, in the 2012 Rock Diner's Guide, we had a total of 35 restaurants participating. In the 2013 Diner's Guide, we have over 75 restaurants, and that's just monumental. We added new restaurants all over, including Philadelphia. The Diner's Guide is crucial to the restaurant industry, as Chef Tate was saying. It also, we want to show that we support restaurateurs and owners and employers and managers who are taking the high road to profitability, who are choosing to do things in a different manner than what the normal standard is or what the NRA says is profitable, right? They are choosing to do things differently, and they're being very successful at it. We want to educate those who are taking the low road, and we want to inform them that they are breaking the law, and they are also breaking the power of the consumer. We also want to engage restaurants in learning about how to take the high road through getting involved in the restaurant industry roundtable that we at Rock helped to organize. So this year we also celebrate, we're going green, right? You can pull your phone out and download it from the Android marketplace or the iPhone. What do they call the iPhone marketplace? I'm not sure the app, iPhone app. I'm an Android. Apple Store is, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, App Store. Yeah, silly me, right? When I got on Android, I was so excited. It just blew my mind. I came from BlackBerry. But you can go download it from the Android marketplace or the iPhone App Store, the Diner's Guide. Just punch in Diner's Guide and it'll come up. So I want to show you a quick video about the Diner's Guide, and then I'll go into some more information really quick.
Did you ever think about the people who cook, prepare, and serve your food when you're eating out? There are actually over 10 million restaurant workers in America. Unfortunately, most of them earn less than $9 an hour, which means that most of them are living in poverty. 90% of them say they don't have paid sick days, which means that 2/3 cook, prepare, and serve food while sick, which can't be healthy for any of us. And worst of all, most of these workers don't have opportunities to move up the ladder to better jobs. You can read more about these issues in my book, Behind the Kitchen Door. But guess what? There's good news. There's something you and I can do every time we eat out to change this situation. We have a lot of power to vote and speak with our courts. My organization, the Restaurant Opportunity Centers United, or ROC United, is a national restaurant workers organization seeking improved working conditions in America's restaurants. We put out the ROC National Diner's Guide and smartphone application to let you know about the 150 most popular restaurants in America and how they rank on whether or not they provide paid sick days, livable wages for tipped and non-tipped workers, and promotion opportunities for their workers to move up to better jobs. We want you to speak up every time you eat out, to let management know that you care about these issues as much as you care about the quality of the food. Over the last 10 years, diners like you and I have spoken up and asked, is this organic? Is this locally sourced? And now we see local and organic menu items in restaurants across America. We created this video to show you how you could speak up every time you eat out, commending good restaurants that won awards in our guide, like Colors, Craft, La Palapa, Union Square Cafe, letting them know you think they're doing a good job. Letting other restaurants know that didn't get an award that you think they could do better and that these issues are important to you. And just letting other restaurants that aren't in the guide know about the guide and what they can do to change things for the better of all of us.
If you're eating at a restaurant that got 0 or 1 of the criteria from the guide, here's an example of how to speak to management.
Excuse me, are Are you the manager?
I am indeed. Hi. Did you enjoy your meal today?
Oh, it was fabulous, and the service was excellent.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to talk to you about the Rock National Diners Guide. Have you heard of it?
No, can't say I have.
They rate restaurants based on their working conditions, and according to this guide, you could do a bit better.
Really?
Yes, it says that you don't provide livable wages, paid sick days, opportunities for advancement, all of those things.
Really?
As a customer, it makes it that much more enjoyable for me to come and eat if I know that my server is being treated well.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, all of our employees are very happy. I actually have an open door policy.
Good. Happy workers is what it's all about. But as a customer, I think that it's really necessary for there to be a livable wage. Paid sick days, they don't have to come to work and handle the food while they're sick.
Sure.
Advancement opportunities regardless of your race or your gender. All of those things are very important to me. There are plenty of restaurants that are doing all of these things and they're remaining profitable and successful. So it's possible, and if you're interested, I would suggest that you contact the Rock United.
Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate you coming to me and giving me that feedback.
Thank you for your time.
Lovely, you had a great meal.
Yes.
Come back again, okay?
Absolutely, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you're eating at a restaurant that got a gold or silver rating from the guide, here's something you can say.
I wanted to talk to a manager or owner, if that's possible.
Sure, I'll get them for you.
Great, thanks.
Hi, folks.
Hi.
Hello. I'm great, thank you. How are you doing most of the time?
Great, it was delicious.
Enjoyed everything?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And the service was excellent.
He is terrific, isn't he?
Yeah. We wanted to just thank you for treating your servers so well, all of your staff. According to the Rock Diners Guide app, you got a silver star for
That's
sustainable wages and paid sick days.
Thank you. We like to approach our business. If our employees are happy, then that passes on to you, helps create a happy environment for everybody.
Yeah, you're right about that. We could feel it just in everything. So thank you. Thank you for taking the high road, being responsible, and we'll definitely tell all of our friends to come back here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.
All right.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye.
If you're eating at a restaurant that's not heard of the guide, try this approach.
Hi.
Hi, ladies. How was your meal this evening?
Oh, it was great. And the service was fabulous.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you enjoyed dining with us tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to an owner or manager. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How are we doing today?
We're doing great.
Had a great time, enjoyed your meal.
Oh, we loved it. The service was excellent also.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I wanted to talk to you about the Rock Diners Guide. Have you heard of it?
No, I don't think I have.
They rate restaurants based on their working conditions, whether they have paid sick days, opportunities for advancement, regardless of gender and race, and also livable wages. All those things are important to me as a customer, and you're actually not listed.
No, I don't think we are.
As a customer, it's great to know what sort of service you're supporting, what kind of people you're supporting, and if you're interested in getting listed, I suggest that you contact Rock United. You can go to www.rockunited.org. They're a great resource for employers.
Sounds very interesting, yeah. No, I've always felt that our employees are our backbone, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely. That's great to hear. And
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Come back again, have another lovely meal.
We will.
All right.
So here's the deal. The next time you eat out, please speak up to management. Let them know that you care about these issues and that you would like to support responsible employers. You can even download the Rock National Diners Guide smartphone app for free, and you can tweet these messages to managers and employers using the app. This is the only way that we can communicate our values and that we can ensure that restaurant workers across America aren't sick, do have opportunities for advance, and that they can put food on their own tables as well. Thank you.
So that was our video on the Rock Diners Guide, and behind the kitchen door, the book Behind the Kitchen Door, the Rock Diners Guide, the upcoming feature film that we're doing in 2014. It's coming up, and the welcometable.net. These are all tools that we want to use to engage the public. We need to engage the millions of people around the country to let them know that restaurant workers don't have it that easy. The people that bring you such a good time at your table and pour your unsweet tea and those things, they don't have it all that easy. And as a result, they live in poverty. Many are forced with whether or not to buy medicine for their kids or feed their kids. Many, can't properly take care or fully take care of a family. As I said before, they draw on public assistance at higher rates than the national average. Behind the Kitchen Door, the book that is, written by Saru Jayaraman, presents the stories of restaurant workers around the country in an easily readable format, popularly written story of restaurant workers, and focuses on their struggles with low wages, working while sick, sexual harassment and discrimination, et cetera, because there's so much that can be covered. Again, we all know that the minimum wage has been there for 20 years. It's time to change that. Restaurant workers, we should have something called No Restaurant Worker Left Behind, right? We have no child left behind, no restaurant worker left behind. This book is meant to reach millions of people and to create a national conversation and involve the worker and the consumer in the slow food movement. SLOW, the acronym, sustainable, local, organic, and workers' rights, right? We want to involve the consumer and the worker in the slow food movement, but we can't do it without your support. So, as we enter the phase on our consumer engagement phase of our campaign, we felt that we had to have a place online where people and eaters and consumers and foodies like myself can come to learn more about Rock and our campaign and and engage consumers and politicians directly, right? The restaurant industry employs over 10 million people. That's really large, right? It's the largest private employer in the States, right? But it's the lowest paying. That's just not right. So with the introduction of the Harkin-Miller minimum wage bill, that presented Rock the opportunity to work on a national effort to raise the minimum wage and the tip minimum wage in efforts that it might raise the floor for restaurant workers and raise the floor in the American economy. So in order to create a groundswell, Rock for the first time is engaging consumers directly. To that end, we wanted to communicate with them in a manner that would be most impactful to them. Our consumer campaign, again, has three main parts: the Diner's Guide, the release of the book in February 13, and the release of the feature film adaptation of The Accidental American, written by our co-founder, Fikak Mamdouh. So with the launch, if we could click around on the website, that would be great. So with the launch of the welcometable.net, we now have a centralized online house-to-house information, right, and resources for all of these projects. The welcometable.net will also serve as the online home for Rock's new consumer organization table, launching in the spring of 2013. This new consumer organization will allow eaters to gather monthly to not only enjoy meals at local high road restaurants, but also to learn about labor issues that affect restaurant workers locally. As a national organization, the Welcome Table will allow consumers to demonstrate to Congress that sustainable labor practices are important to them, and we do represent, and it should represent a key voting issue to them. So as you can see, there are the tools to let your member of Congress know that we won't stand for this and we're going to speak up about it. And at this time, I'm going to introduce the humming motor of Rock DC. Her name is Nikki Lewis. She's great. And at this time, she's going to, humming motor, right? She's going to bring up the panel of workers. Thank you guys, and I really appreciate you being here.
Hello everyone, thank you for staying to hear the workers' perspective, yes, I'm the humming motor of Rock DC, and a lifetime restaurant worker myself. So I'm very proud to be here and to bring these fine leaders to tell their stories. So we are going to be respectful of your time and have a little bit of a condensed panel than before. So let's just get into it. Today we have Mr. DeAndre Bennett. Yes. And we have Romualdo Cardoso and Ms. Lindsey Robertson. Yes, these are the people that work so hard to cook, prepare, and serve our meals. Oh, and myself, Nikki Lewis, the humming motor. Thank you all for taking time off of your incredibly busy work schedules to be here and educate folks about what really goes on. Let's start with Romualdo. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you like about working in the restaurant industry?
Well, like she was saying, my name is Romualdo Cardoso. I came into this country when I was 15, and I started working for this restaurant called America, ironically. I was a cleaning crew that comes at night and clean all the greasy grills and vents and all that. I worked there for about a year before I got fired, before I got injured. I had a sprained ankle, and doctor told me that I had to take off probably like 4 weeks before I came back to work. But right after the second week, I didn't make much. I was making $5.75 at the time. So I had to eat, I had to pay rent, and I had just run away from home. So there I was, not having enough money to eat, not having money for my rent. So I went back with a really bad injury, limping and all that. I went back and I was like, oh, I'm ready to work, pretending that I was ready when I was not. My supervisor at the time, he was like, oh, well, my friend, the place has been taken. You are actually fired. You don't no longer have a job. I was like, really, that was like one of those things that change your life and prove you that the American dream is not exactly what everybody projects and tells you, like from the outsider point of view. I knew it was gonna be a hard way ahead. And from then on, I move on. I got another job. I struggled for a little while, but I got back on my feet. After a while of being like on and off in like different restaurants, I was like, maybe I have to be stable. Maybe I have to, even if I have to work my way up, I have to stay in one position and work my way up. Why not? With those intentions, I went in and I stayed at this job for about 5 years, almost 6. I started as a busboy. They make me a runner, a food runner, then they put me as an expo. But always it was in like those mediocre positions where like you don't really make money. You get a percentage of the server, which is like 70% of the server gets. I get 15% of that, which is almost nothing. So, and after several times I asked my boss, I was like, I think I'm ready. Can you make me a bartender or at least a server, something else, and he would be like, let me think about it. I inquired like 5 times. He never did anything about it. I looked for another job. I got another job. I was serving at this other place. I was making way more money, probably twice the money that I was making there. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to work the weekends anymore for you. I've been working every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with no social life. I got to go to school. I don't really think I can keep doing this for someone that is as ungrateful as I saw it at the time from your side. And he's like, oh, so you want to take the weekends off? Sorry, you don't are welcome here. No, thank you. No, nothing. Just yeah, goodbye. We don't need you here.
Well, Romualdo, I should have told you all this. Romualdo has been working in the restaurant industry for over 15 years. So it may be a little more difficult to answer the question, what do you like after 15 years of doing it? So I'm going to direct that question again to DeAndre, who has been working in the restaurant industry for a little bit less of a time. What do you like working about in the restaurant industry? And tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Okay, well, I'm DeAndre Bennett. I'm 19 years old. I'm a student at the Maryland Institute College of Art. And to say the least, art school is very expensive. So the restaurant industry is very flexible. It works out for the type of lifestyle that I have to live. There's a restaurant everywhere, so I don't know when I'll actually have a career in art, so that's nice. What I really like about it is the fact that I get to give people a pleasurable dining experience. It changes that aspect of it just being two people at a table eating. When I come up and I suggest, I show people the menu. Sometimes when you go into a restaurant and you see a menu, like, it is intimidating. It's a lot of things. So I get to help people through that. That's what I really get to enjoy.
And Lindsey, same question to you. What do you like about working in the restaurant industry? And tell us about yourself.
Well, I've also been in the restaurant industry for over 15 years. And I think that Chef Tate and Andy said it best. It's the human experience that I really like. I really enjoy customer service. I love meeting new people. I like to serve people, and it just feels good doing it. It's, you know, it's nice to bring a smile to somebody's face. It's such a small thing, or suggesting something that you know they'd like. It's fun and it's nice, and I'm good at it, so it all comes together. It's nice to do something you're good at and like it.
Thank you for sharing, all of you. So, Romualdo, you had talked a little bit about some of the challenges that you face to move up in the restaurant industry, and I want to open up the question to all of you. The restaurant industry is famous for its high turnover. Why do you think that is, and what are some of the changes that are needed to address that? And anyone start? Why do you think there is so much turnover, high turnover in the restaurant industry?
Well, I guess we can start from the top. Wages. Not getting, I mean, for me, working in the restaurant industry was, like DeAndre said, it's flexible. I've been a student, so you can work around your schedule. You can work at night, you can work at weekend, you can go to class at nighttime, you can go to class at daytime, work other times. But when there's times that you're working on like a Tuesday afternoon and you're getting paid $2.77, $2.13 an hour, and you have one table that comes in and they tip you $5 on a $100 bill, and you have no transparency on whether or not your employer is actually making up the rest of those wages that they're supposed to give you if you don't make the $8.25 an hour, it's really frustrating. So you leave and you try something else. Or you try another restaurant that friends have talked to you about and say, oh, I make $100 a night, it's always busy. I think that's one of the biggest things. Would be that it's, you know, you work to make money.
Yeah, just like Lindsey said, you kind of resort to this like nomadic style of living where you're trying to find the restaurant that has the business, and none of them really seem to have the business. And I mean, I've been told by management at my restaurant that I'm expendable. And I mean, you never want to hear that from your job. So sometimes that's the way that you get treated. I understand that the industry is in a tough spot because the economy is the way that it is. But, I mean, it's a human rights issue.
I want to ask now, tell us, and Romualdo, you had done this a little bit already, but tell us the inside scoop of working a day in your shoes. What is it like working at your current restaurant? What is it like in the day in the life? What kind of things do you do, and what issues directly affect you on the job?
I believe it's like the lack of professionalism among the people who run these places. I think that everybody in any other industry have bosses that at least say, please, can you do this? Over there is like, oh, you fucking up, pretty much.
Yep.
Like if you messed up, you get treated and get talked down as if you were not a person. And I believe that that power or that entitlement that the owners or the people who run these places have to talk to you like that is just unacceptable.
I always called it like being like a third-class citizen. Like when you work in these industries, you have employers that have, I guess I'll just tell the story that happened to me like last weekend. So the restaurant I worked at had a hot water issue, and the health department came by and, you know, you can't cook without hot water, you can't clean the plates without hot water, so they shut you down. And all I got was a phone call on a Friday that, oh, work's closed, you don't have to come in. Like, all right, well, why is work closed? Did the place burn down? What's happening? So after texting my boss and calling the restaurant, finally, like 15 minutes later, I get in touch with somebody. The hot water broke. We're closed. The next Saturday, I happened to be at Rock with Nikki, and one of the other servers was calling me, like, they're telling me that we need to come in, that the restaurant's open, but my friends have called the restaurant, and they've called me back saying, why are we closed? Why are we closed? Finally, a few hours later, I get a call. We have to have a conference call with our boss. And she's irate. She doesn't know why nobody wants to come in, why we're not doing this her favor. And we're like, well, what favor do you want us to do? She's like, I need you guys to come in to tell the customers that it's not that something's wrong with our food, it's just the hot water problem. Can you guys come in and just hang out for a few hours and tell customers this? Like, I need this favor from you. Oh, and by the way, I know it's the law that you only get $2.77 an hour, so I'm not gonna pay you more than that to come in on a Sunday when you usually make $100 and you're gonna get $8 to be here for 3 hours. Like, are you serious? I'm gonna come sit there for $8. It cost me $4 to get there on the metro. It cost me $4 in gas to drive there. And this is a favor for you. But what about a favor for me? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't give me that favor when I needed that day off because I had finals.
Exactly. They think they own you, and they own your time, and that your time is not as valuable as their time is, as owners or managers. You know, they get upset when you don't have the time. They give you bad looks. They put you on the blacklist. I don't know.
They threaten your job.
Yeah, most, from what you guys have heard, Chef Tate and Andy are phenomenal examples of employers where those kind of conditions that they're describing are not the norm. So we're working very hard to transform that. So these kind of stories are not the norm. You don't want that energy on your food. But DeAndre, I heard that you don't pick up your checks, your paychecks. Why is that?
Well, as far as paychecks go, they're pretty much non-existent. I haven't gotten actual paychecks since about the first month I was working. Ever since then, every time I've gone to pick up my paycheck, it's a voided check. It says literally across the check, this is not a check. So it's usually a waste of time. Sometimes they'll come and bring it to me anyways, but for the most part, they're always voided.
So without getting a paycheck then, so you're dependent upon cash tips?
Yes.
And how is that depending on cash tips as your regular income?
Well, my tips are highly affected by how I'm feeling when I come in. Like recently, I had to work despite the fact that my wisdom tooth was coming in. And anybody who knows what that feels like, it's terrible. When I walk up to a table, I'm in front of you, you can see exactly how I'm feeling and it affects my service. So as a result, I walk out with no money. If I call out, I still get no money, and chances are I'll probably get fired. So you're kind of left with it. It's a catch-22 almost.
Lindsey, Romualdo, what is it like depending on cash tips for your income?
In my case, since I've been pretty much depending on tips, it all depends on the season and like the kind of people that is going to a restaurant and eat. Like if we have, like he was saying, it's usual that people categorize or servers in the industry to be racist or to put people in categories, you know, like, oh, the Latinos are eating there, we might get tips, or the blacks are eating there, we might not get any tips, or the old, the young, you know, like, we categorize people, and most often than that, it is very true. I'm sorry, it's sad, but it's true. And it depends on what kind of crowd we have that night, and we have to depend on that. I might walk out with $70, I might walk up with $150. You never know, you are always depending on like the people.
We make bets at the end of the night how much money we're gonna make, and whoever gets closest without going over gets to take the extra $1 home. And that all depends on the day, and it depends on the season. It depends on who, well, at my place we pull tips. It depends on who you're working with. It depends on it depends on the customers. It depends on how I'm feeling, how you're feeling. It depends on the music in the restaurant. It's just up in the air. I can't guarantee that I'm gonna make $50 one night or $130 the other night.
It can be very hard to find like a sense of stability.
Mm-hmm. Right. But the rent is always due.
The rent never changes.
Yeah. It always goes up though.
Yeah. Right. So Lindsey, I heard that you have a unique bronchitis story. Would you share that, and why you believe working with Rock DC can help achieve local change so that there aren't more stories like that?
Oh, I can. So I had been, I was a bartender, waitress, cocktail waitress at a restaurant in my hometown in Massachusetts. And in the wintertime, I had always been prone to head colds. You know, whatever, just some sniffles and a cough, and you know, usually like a Z-Pack would take care of it. And it went on for a few days longer than it usually does, and I was not feeling good at all. And all of a sudden, everybody else I was working with started to notice it. And I had was roommates with one of the girls that worked with me, and she had been telling our boss, hey, Lindsey's really not feeling good. There's tissues strewn all over the house. Like, just, she shouldn't be working. And the woman who owned the place was like, nope, she's fine. She can handle it. She's a strong girl. She'll be fine. And then finally, by like mid-afternoon, because we'd always gone in early to like set up the bar and set everything up, it was just obvious. I was all black under my eyes, just drawn, and coughing all over everybody. And finally, she's like, I don't want to get sick from you. You're really sick. You should go home. Go to the doctors. I went to the doctors, and I had bronchitis. And I thought, oh, at least she noticed. I get to go to the doctors. But it shouldn't have to come to the point where the owner of the restaurant was like, I don't want your sickness. Go home. Like, she should have been like, you're not feeling well, don't come in, so you can get better. It's kind of ridiculous. It's not only am I risking everybody else getting sick, and then that brings everybody's work productivity down, which will, you know, not help with our tips. It gives the people in the kitchen a chance to get sick. They're cooking your food. Y'all can get sick. And especially, like they had said before, with the flu coming out, and it's at epidemic proportions. That's how that happens. It happens when you go into places where people can just catch what you've got, because you should stay home, and you should go to the doctors, and you should get medicine.
I want to ask one last question and then open it up to the audience. We've been talking a lot about paid sick days. We had talked about wage theft before with the employers, but I want to ask each of you, how would an increase in the minimum wage or the tip minimum wage affect your lives individually?
An increase of the wage, at least it would bring me closer to finding that security that I'm looking for, because I would know at least at the end of the night, if, should, God forbid, I make no money whatsoever, I do have a check coming. Right now, if I don't make any money, I don't have a check coming. And that's fine because I'm 19, but it can't continue that way. And that's the way that I look at it. I feel like my future, I hope that something like that is there.
Like you said, there's stability. I instead of being worried that I have to scramble to pick up a few extra shifts next week to be able to make my rent, I would know that maybe I can make my rent. Or I won't have to default on my gas bill or my electricity bill. Or I can pay my phone bill so people can get in touch with me. Like, just that small extra dollars really add up at the end of the week when you might not make that some other way and nobody else is willing to give up a shift for you to make that money. Or you don't have to think about getting another job to make up for that time so you're not working 75 hours a week just to pay for your basic necessities.
Correct. No, they have cider.
Okay. Maybe we could save.
Right. Savings. Does anyone in the audience have questions for the restaurant workers here today? Yes.
Know how you work and don't get a paycheck.
That's
you get tips, but explain, please.
To my understanding, the way that it works is I make too much in tips, so I don't get a paycheck. That's the way that they've explained it to me. And yeah, I've thought of it a little bit. It makes sense when they explain it, but I mean, it doesn't.
There's also not a lot of transparency. I'm not really, so we claim our tips to our employer, and then that's, you know, they say based on how much you claim throughout the week, that depends on what your check is going to be when you get it. I've had jobs where I've had a 0 paycheck. I've had jobs where they've given me like a $150 paycheck. I don't know why. I have no transparency to know how that money is being claimed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it depends on the employer.
It's a mess.
It's
As a consumer or human rights or whatever you want to call it, we as customers need to do something about this. Is that correct?
Yes.
It would help, yes. We would appreciate your help.
We don't have our jobs without you.
Hi, so this is a forum where we're talking about how consumers can have an impact on what all of you do. It is kind of shocking. It's more than kind of shocking that you won't get a paycheck. I mean, we don't really understand how that works. I lived in Australia for a year, and the wait staff makes about $15 to $20 an hour. They don't get a lot of tips, but it's a livable wage, they say. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that nobody's getting rich, but they do okay. So I think that's, and then they have health insurance. It's all covered by the government, and but give us some, what could we do as consumers when we go into a restaurant, knowing now that there are a lot of inequities that go on. Do you have some advice for us?
I guess the last video that came on really kind of said it. Talk to a manager. I mean, anytime you ask a server to talk to a manager, our hearts will jump out of our chest. But just do it. Tell the manager. Let them know, because that hits them. Because they care what you say. Because if you have something to say to them, they're going to listen. Because if they don't like what you're doing, you're not gonna come back. I don't go back to places where that happens. So just hit them where it hurts, in their pockets.
And even before that, what really hurts is when I take care of you for however long it may be. The bill, actually recently I had a check go up to $500. It was a party of 20 people. And at the end, after the 3 hours I took to take care of them, they left me $4.75.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's one way to help, just at least tip.
At
least tip.
Keep it simple.
Well, we're apparently we're no longer allowed to put the gratuity on checks anymore, because there was that automatic 18% for larger parties, but we've lost that as well. And
my boss once did that to a group of customers that we had, and the guy was like, "Sir, I'm sorry, but your check is a little big. You're not leaving any tips. Are you sure you want to do this?" It's like, I don't like to leave tips. It's not, where in the law says that I'm supposed to leave any tips? So my question is that, where in the law are anybody supposed to leave any tips? So if you don't feel like it, you don't have to.
But remember,
Plain
we
and
make
simple.
213.
Police is not going to come and arrest them.
Yeah, the video referred to employers taking some of the tip money, and I was wondering, like, if I leave a $10 tip on a credit card, do you guys typically get it, or almost always get it, or what's the situation like? When does it occur that?
It depends on the restaurant. Some restaurants that I've worked at, they won't take anything, but I've had restaurants where they take my tips. Oh, well, we're in a hard spot. We're in a little bit of hole. I'll put it in your paycheck, and then your paycheck bounce.
Or they will be like, we're not closing out, or you're not cashing out tonight. You might be cashing out at the end of the week. And at the end of the week, it's like, okay, Sunday was really, really busy, and then Saturday as well. But I'm like getting this $150 check for like 5 days of work. I'm like, doesn't make any sense. So it all depends on the policies and the kind of people that run the places, pretty much.
And at my restaurant, for that $10 that you left, 2 of it will go to my busser, 2 will go to the person who ran the food, and then I keep 6 of it, if I'm lucky.
If not the bartender, too. The bar sales.
Yeah, and we have to tip out the bartender.
Hi. First of all, I think this is really interesting. I've worked in a bunch of restaurants here in DC, in Adams Morgan, no names, but I totally feel for you. I never saw a paycheck either, or W-2 or anything like that for that matter. I am wondering though, and I came in a little late, so maybe I missed this, but is there a resource where, maybe workers can anonymously kind of rate their restaurants on this kind of issue? Because, yes, obviously consumers have power in terms of they're the ones who are making the purchases of the food and tipping and all that, but it's really hard to see, having been on the inside, you can see how it's almost invisible to the outside.
They want it that way.
Right, of course. So, I don't know, I guess this is more of like a suggestion than a question, but I think that's something that, you guys at ROC, I guess, could consider.
Yeah, so there is no website or hotline where a worker can call anonymously, but at ROC, we do help individual workers and also organizations like the Employment Justice Center help restaurant workers deal with the legal violations that they're facing on the job. Many times restaurant workers do want to be anonymous because DC is a very small city. You can get blacklisted very easily, and many of the restaurants are owned. While they seem like they're different restaurants, they're owned by the same people. So something anonymous like that would be great, but the law actually does protect workers. If you have an issue, then you should not be discriminated against for filing a wage claim or for standing up for your rights. There are rights. So what you can also do as consumers is when you go out and dine, you can give the cards to the manager and use the diner's guide, but let your server, your busser, your bartender know that there are organizations out there that are just for them to help them and educate them about their rights.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for being in the restaurant industry. I really appreciate it. As someone who used to be in the back end of things, so my question is, one, do you guys have multiple positions or multiple jobs now? And then do you have families that are dependent on you, as well as children?
I don't now, but I had before. There was a time I was living on my own, and I worked 3 jobs to pay my rent.
The kind of money that I get from the restaurant, I hope one day I can be a professional and and have my own business or work where I can get well paid. Because sincerely, I've been working for them for a long time, and I don't see myself living out of those type of wages.
And I'm still trying to be independent. I still have my parents helping me out. Hopefully I want to be independent soon though.
And that's like, you just reminded me of something. Like, I feel like everybody that I work with in the restaurant industry is like, this isn't forever. Like, this isn't, you know, you get that, like, this isn't a real job. It's a real job. It pays my bills, it buys me food, it pays my rent. And it's just kind of sad that people, like, we look at it like that too sometimes. Like, oh, this is not permanent. But sometimes it is. That's,
yeah.
Especially in this economy, it's good money, it's flexible. It's, you know, well, it can be good money. Sometimes you're screwed. But, you know, like, even some of us think of it that way. This is a temporary fix, but it's not.
And I will add to your question, there are many, many people who support families in the restaurant industry. About 70% of front of the house workers are women, and many of them are caretakers for their own children or elderly people, or are supporting families like back home. And it is difficult to have those people come to this panel because they have even more need to be at work right now, making every single penny, especially when there are no paid sick days, no health insurance, not higher wages in most of these restaurants. So time literally is money. So I'm thankful that the three of these outstanding workers were able to join us today to be here and share their stories and represent the backbone of the restaurant industry. So I think we're out of time now.
I'm going to hog the microphone for a second. But, you know, there is a saying that fresh air is the best disinfectant. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that the restaurants who engage in these very abusive wage theft practices and don't provide sick leave, but the kind of wage theft that you all are talking about, where, you know, they tell you you're going to get it, your check at the end of the week, and then you look at your check and you're really busy and it's not there. Yeah. There's no transparency to the worker or to the consumer. I'm thinking, you know, I've worked in the consumer biz a long time, and one of the things that we did when I used to work at Consumer Reports, and we're all about letting the world know how products and services perform. And we started publicizing hospital infection rates, and different hospitals were doing, some were doing a terrible job and had really high infection rates. We started publishing that information. Everybody got better, a lot better. And I'm thinking that restaurants, we need to not, I know your job, I'm not talking about your particular restaurants or putting you on the spot, but I think the public really needs to know. I mean, the book is great, the Rock book is great, but so many of us go out to eat so much in Washington. It would be really helpful if we knew. Like, I like the anonymous suggestion.
Yeah,
that was a good thought.
Same thing. We'll make an anonymous restaurant workers.
If it's anonymous, but we
like
find out some of these practices, I think it would be so helpful to those of us who do this work, but also to the consumers that we serve. It's a kind of Consumer Reports way of letting the world know who's doing right by their employees and who's engaging in massive wage theft. Mm-hmm. So I guess, you know, that could be a closing thought. I was supposed to do an official closing. Michelle, can that be it?
If I may say something for that, and not to plug again or have this be an infomercial, but there is a book coming out on 2/13 called Behind the Kitchen Door, What Every Consumer Should Know About the People That Feed Us. And there are real Washington, D.C. restaurant workers' story in there. I have a whole chapter that is about my experience working with pink eye, conjunctivitis, and the video that you saw, or one of the videos that you saw earlier was like, and Troy was working with H1N1 and pink eye, like that is my story. The things that you saw in there are real, and that's in that book, so I encourage you to buy it, or at least spread the word and tell other people, because that is the real life stories of workers across the entire United States of what's going on, and gives you lots of suggestions and tools about how to let other people know that it's time for that fresh air also.
it's just so sad that we have to depend on the goodness of our employers or the people who run these places in order for us to survive. You know, like we shouldn't. Like we shouldn't. If we do a good job and if we wake up every day and go on time, we shouldn't be going through this. You know, like it's not.
Oh, and just one other thing. I'm sorry, and then really we can go. There is a local petition going around that you all could sign to help win paid sick days for all workers in Washington, D.C. If you go to paidsickdaysforall.org, it's right there, paidsickdaysforall.org.
Thank you. Thank you.